Good evening and welcome to Greater Somerville for May 20th, 2014. I'm Cayenne Anderson. Tonight's topic, the community path. With the Deval-Patrick administration's recent announcement of the full funding of the construction of the Green Line Extension Community Path, this 2-mile path will connect future Lowell Street Station in Somerville to the future relocated Lechmere Station in Cambridge. As fierce advocates for this cause that is now decades in the making, our guests tonight are no strangers to this topic. Representing the Friends of the Community Path organization, they are here tonight to talk about their reaction to this milestone decision that will be happening in the months ahead, and how we would like to see the current design improved prior to construction. So please join me in welcoming Lynn Weissman and Alan Moore to the show.
Thanks.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay. So, exciting topic. I'm very excited to talk about it. However, I do need to make a little disclaimer because as a former, I did work on that from 2011 2013. I actually worked on the Green Line Extension project with Kleinfelder Engineering and architecture consultant firm. We were hired to complete the preliminary design of the Green Line Extension, and but the expressed opinions this evening are of my own as a Somerville community resident. So with that, I wanted to get a little bit into just quick background of you two guys, because you guys have been around for a long time, but you haven't all been on the show. You've been on the show a little while ago, but we just figured why not find out kind of how they came to where they are. So Lynn, you're originally from Queens.
Yep.
The Somerville of New York City.
Somerville of New York City.
Did you coin that, or was that?
I suppose I coined that. You know,
Yeah.
It's like the New Yorker picture.
Yeah.
I liken everything to New York City. You know, Somerville is Queens, and you know, Cambridge is Soho, and Boston is Manhattan, and so forth.
And so you, Weiss Women Productions, your own company, since 2002. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I also I do shooting and editing for video projects and a little producing. So
A little producing. She
I'm
does a lot
also
of it.
at home at Scat.
You're very at home at Scat. She's very at home in front of the camera, right? So you are co-founder of the Friends of the Community Path with your husband, Joel Bennett, and that was in 2001. So that's a long time ago.
Yeah. So the path is
Yeah.
the Friends of the Community Path is actually Joel's. The group is Joel's brainchild. Mm-hmm. The idea of the community path preceded him, mm-hmm. but it was really his idea to form the group, and so I was there, and we co-founded it together.
And here you are.
And here I am.
And you're currently the co-president with Alan,
Mm-hmm.
and you live in Somerville since 1994. So that's you're committed. You're committed to the area.
Oh yeah, I'm staying.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Alan, you are from Connecticut, and you've been all around, but you were on the bicycle committee, including chairperson, for about 10 years.
Yeah, still am. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very active committee.
Yep, and
So
some
you're-
other transportation-related groups as well, but the
Okay.
Friends of Community Path is definitely my main focus.
So you've been the co-president since 2002,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been living in Porter Square since 1996.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Two lifers here. That's okay. I am too. It's been 10 years.
In Cambridge before that, so
Okay.
I've been
Well,
around
you don't want to
since
say
like
that too loud.
1980.
No, I'm just kidding.
So.
No, I'm just kidding. So, okay. So we are going to talk about the path. Obviously, for those at home who don't know, there was a very milestone decision recently where the path has now officially gotten the green light for full funding for not only the design but also the construction, which is really fantastic. They were originally going to design along with the Green Line extension. They're going to be they were designed in conjunction because it really parallels the Green Line pretty much the entire way. But it was decided just recently that they're going to be doing the funding and construction of it, which is great news for our city and Cambridge and Medford as well. Well, it's actually, excuse me, only Somerville. So anyway, so we're here tonight to just kind of celebrate that victory because these are two of the people that were really the reason why that happened, and additionally to go over a little bit about the design itself and where it stands. So maybe we talk a little bit about the Friends of the Community Path, the mission, and or how this all kind of came to be. So I thought maybe you might add a little bit to that.
Great. So our mission is essentially to connect the Minuteman Path, the Minuteman Bikeway, with the Charles River Path network. along the future route of the Green Line extension via the community path, which is about 2 miles. And we actually have some maps here
Okay.
to illustrate that.
So this is part of a bigger, okay, so this right here is the original map.
Yep. So this map, it might be a little hard to see on your screens, I don't know, but you can see the Green Line extension, and sort of down below is the community path that runs along 4 of the Green Line stations, Lowell Street, Gilman Square, Washington Street, and Leechmere. And that's the route. This is the future route. This particular part doesn't exist now. If we move on to the next slide, we can, and also the path is projected to have over 3 million trips per year.
Wow.
We hope that would increase over time. As people, get used to having it around. And this is a zoomed-in map of the same thing. The brown line is the community path route. And, we look at this as a regional project. It's not just a Somerville project, because it will actually connect 11 Boston metro cities and towns by connecting the Minuteman and the Charles River Path networks. So that's almost 50 miles of path network that these 2 miles can make for.
Wow, wonderful. And then some of the things about, it's a community path versus a bike path. Like, I want to make sure that there's that distinction. And one of that is, for this very reason, that it's not just used by bicyclists, right? I mean, it's
As you can see from the data on this photo, it's only about 10% cyclists. The rest are pedestrians of various types. So it's a lot different than a lot of the bike paths further out in the suburbs that are mostly bicyclists, going on long bike rides. Here it's people walking to work, people going exercise, walking their dog.
And it's seasonal, right? So it's definitely something that
people use it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Look at that duck. Okay, everybody's having a good time.
So
Although
walking,
biking,
cycling.
I don't know. It looks a little icy, but
well, that's maybe why he was walking.
I know. I'm kidding. So it's definitely an asset to the community on many levels. And I've noticed that a lot of the bike, the properties right against the bike path, or the community path, are, they're opening up their backyards in ways, or like they're planting, like there's new plantings and things like that are going to
People make gates in their fences to come into it.
It's really welcoming.
And it's actually it'll be the large, when it's completed, it'll be one of the largest parks in the city. It'll be about the same size as Foss Park.
Okay.
And we have very low on open space in Somerville, so it's important for that too.
So now I understand. I mean, obviously, the Friends of Community Path, you started a long time ago, and you've been kind of pushing towards this.
Mm-hmm.
So why is the funding? Obviously, it's so important. One of the what was holding it back? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of logistics. Knowing that, I working on the design of the Green Line.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the challenges that were kind of preventing that from happening?
Well, there's a lot of expensive infrastructure to build this path in the same corridor with the Green Line, because the bridges have to be made a little wider for the community path. Additional retaining walls have to be built. A very long viaduct has to be built next to the Green Line viaduct, which is a kind of a bridge to cross over the Fitchburg commuter tracks. So it was always going to be a relative to like a flat bike path in the suburbs. It was a very expensive project that the city of Somerville or a group like ours could never raise the funds for.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I just remember in working on it was that there is really the right-of-way of the corridor of the Green Line. It's so tight, and taking away any sort of property, they obviously want to minimize that, and that's one of the reasons why the Green Line was so fantastic, because we didn't take as many properties as considering how dense it is. But in terms of, there's definitely pinch points, and I know that one of the great things about this organization is getting involved, and how involved you were in the process of how the station design and the Green Line it evolved with a lot of your input. So what are there's a couple of areas which specifically, like Washington Street, which is going to be in the new phase, the first phase. You've got Union Square, right? What is it? Union Square,
Leechmere and Washington
Station. And Washington Street has, specifically had a really challenging design issue. And tell me a little bit about that as far as your kind of involvement with how that design got improved because of your input.
Right. Yeah, we have a relatively small group of very active members. We have over 1,000 members who support the community path, and we have a smaller group of a dozen or so who do a lot of active work, and that includes I'm an engineer. We have a few other engineers on in the sort of core group. So there were, as you said, there were times when the design that the engineers are coming up with were, because they were concentrating on the green line. They didn't always have time to really concentrate, or even the assignment to concentrate on the community path. So there were, like you said, a number of places, especially Washington Street Station, where we suggested design improvements that they looked at and said, yeah, that would be a good idea, and they worked it out and tweaked it a little and made it happen. So
well, I think one of the key things too is we also presented some solutions. The path as part of a solution in terms of the path is very multi-purpose. It will function as emergency egress for the Green Line, and that was a big selling point because you have to have emergency egress at the stations anyway, and so path segments were able to be multi-purposed for that. And so by using the path as a solution to a design issue that needed to be addressed is one of the reasons we were able to be successful, and definitely thanks to the engineering expertise of Alan and other people in our group.
Well, I think that was definitely something that what I understand of it is that going back and building it after the fact, which I think got thrown around a lot, was really not something that made financial sense because, while it does cost a significant amount of money, if you anticipate the types of things that you guys would, specifically on areas where you're having to go above ground and you have to kind of marry into the existing structure of the Green Line tracks, things like that, or the bridges rather, it made more sense to kind of anticipate that now, right? Because otherwise it would have
been
cost
almost impossible. It would have been not cost effective.
And then we probably couldn't have gotten heavy machinery into the corridor again anyway once the Green Line was.
Because, there is really, what a lot of people don't know, and I think is fascinating, is that this as well as Green Line, it has to be fully functional. That corridor cannot shut down. So there's basically, the commuter rail tracks have to shift over, all the utilities have to move, these stations have to be constructed, the path has to be constructed, all within a time frame of a very small window of time where, the commuter rail is not running late at night. So it's kind of it's like a one bite at the apple sort of thing. So what do you think as far as the funding recently obviously came through, which is great, but do you think there was anything, because I know with the downturn, the economy, things like that, what do you think it was that finally kind of pushed it through? Was it making these connections of, we can use it for emergency egress right past the Leechmere station, and you finally just got that to go?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of that, the multi-purpose of various sections, maybe the economy being better gave the state more confidence that it would be okay to spend a little bit more money to do this. I think we just kept showing over and over again the logic.
You're very persistent.
Well,
you're at every single community meeting, which is great. This is why.
Well, I think also, from a people perspective, we've had, the mayor's been very supportive. Mayor Curtatone has been supportive, and that has been really helpful. And then we have an amazing Secretary of Transportation right now, incredibly progressive. And I think there's been kind of a sea change in how people think of transportation. 5 years ago, this sort of thing might not, just wasn't even, didn't look like it was in the card.
It was kind of considered a frivolous little extra thing. And we showed how we need this. It's going to get people to the stations. It's going to get people out of their cars in some cases.
Yeah. It's packed when I walk to work in the morning. It's really, or bicyclists or anything like that. So now, where was the last extension of the path was from where it currently ends now at Cedar Street. into Davis Square, right? And that was, when was that? That was a while ago.
93.
Okay, so it's well
94.
over, okay, so that's a lot.
18 years ago, I think, or more.
20 now. By
Now
this time,
20.
About 20
We
years
say
ago.
18 and then time goes by,
18,
but now
20.
it's about 20.
You lose track. So now, what's currently being constructed, now this is separate from what they talked about, is the Lowell Street, section that's going to be from Cedar Street.
To Lowell Street.
Yep,
Right.
from Cedar Street to Lowell Street.
Yep.
And I think we have another slide.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the
Okay. Oh, look at that.
groundbreaking ceremony.
Yep.
Last May.
And so this is a section of the path that is actually funded by the city, correct?
No, by the state. The design
the
was
state?
funded by the city.
Okay.
And the construction is state and federal. State and federal.
Really?
So there's a federal
Okay.
earmark that Congressman Capuano
Right.
got for this project.
And then we helped the city apply for additional funding, so there was enough funding to build this section.
Through the Boston MPO.
Okay.
So it's federal and state
So
money.
here's the question. Was there not, because this, for those of you who may not know, and we'll put the map up in a second, but actually it's a little challenging. Well, you can go back there in a second.
Go back to the map.
Yeah, if you go back right there, that's fine. So Lowell Street, you'll see where Lowell Street is up at the top there, and that's where this whole path is going to stop, like the new construction of it.
Right.
But currently, there's a small, what is it, a quarter
Quarter of a mile.
of a mile. That's where, at the groundbreaking ceremony, sorry, we're going through our slides
Yep,
here. There you go.
From Cedar to Lowell
From
Street.
Cedar to Lowell. That's going to be constructed and complete. When is that going to be
It's
completed?
under construction in the contractor. This contract's supposed to be done by September. It's already been quite
Oh, look at
advanced
that.
from this photograph. This was last year sometime.
They're starting to
last
pour
July.
stuff. I know, I live right over there, so
Right.
it's great.
So this September of 2014, the path from Cedar to Lowell should be completed. That's
So-
when the contract goes through.
Now, was there any funding that was added on top of the state funding for the Maxwell's Green? Because I thought that, didn't they have, maybe my memory's fading
No,
me, but,
Maxwell's Green had some state funding to make a connection through, I don't think we have photographs of that, no, to make a connection from the path through Maxwell's Green Development to Lowell Street. So there'll actually be a couple of ways you can get from the path to Lowell Street.
okay, so that's the accessible path route, correct? Yeah.
No, they're both accessible.
accessible.
There's a switchback
Okay.
that will bring people up to Lowell Street that's
Okay.
also accessible.
So now, of all the stations, so there's going to be the 7 new stations. There's going to be the
Right.
one that switches up to Union and then from Leashmere to Lowell Street, or excuse me, to Tufts. Which of these, the path starts at Lowell. So Lowell Station is going to be a very heavily kind of bicycled, hopefully. All the pedestrians and bicyclists will go there. So have they accommodated for that? I mean, is that, I mean, I kind of know the answer to this question because I worked on part of that, but
Right. No,
but
I
I'm
think
saying,
there's a
like, how
total
have they
of- I think
accommodated?
there's a total of about, I think, 1,200 parking spaces within the
Bicycle
four
parking
stations.
spaces.
Bicycle parking
Yeah,
stations.
very important, yeah.
Right, and initially there were less. The Friends and other groups as well showed how many people are already parking at Davis and at Alewife,
Yeah.
that the original numbers were too low, and
So you up the
fortunately it was increased by the designers.
And then there's also a new standard, right, for the enclosed parking.
It'll be both.
That will be caged and
enclosed
secure.
and outside.
And there'll be both of those available at Lowell Street and then also Gilman, correct?
Yeah. At all the stations.
At all the stations,
But
quite
more of
back.
them at the ones that connect to the community path, because more people
More people are gonna use them.
will be cycling to those.
So that's exciting. So you've got that coming up. So what is what is it costing? I'm looking at the notes here, the bold notes. There's so much to talk about.
Go to the slide
If we-
with the figures for what it will cost.
We were talking about this. So it's going to be, is it 39 million? Is that correct?
That's what the state announced when they made the
Okay.
announcement that the funding
That's
for
our budget?
the path would be
39
included
million.
in the green line.
Okay.
But this includes all the sort of extra infrastructure that was needed, for the path.
So including in the 39 million is the extra infrastructure,
Right.
all that
Some
stuff.
of it, but a lot of it is really shared for the
Oh, okay,
emergency
so
egress.
it's-
That's
okay.
being shared with the green line. But this is the cost. If you were never to build a path, and then you said, "Oh, but we want the path," this
Wow.
is what the state says the extra would cost.
But the path is being used as Green Line emergency egress. It's also being used as a utility corridor.
Yeah.
It's
So-
used to get to the Gilman Street station because if you didn't have the path, the access to the station is not ADA compliant, so the path made it solve the problem of ADA compliant access to the Gilman Street station.
Wonderful.
It'll be used for maintenance vehicles as well. So, you can say the path is 39 million, but the path is not independent. So much of this is shared with the Green Line. It's emergency egress, utility.
Absolutely.
So there's sort of the estimates we got were about 20 million for the bridge as part of the Green Line viaduct, about 10 million for the additional, I guess, retaining walls for the path, and then about 10 million for what they're calling finishes, gravel paving, benches, lights, etc.
Well, maybe we talk a little bit about the current design of the path, because we've got about 7 minutes here, so there's so much to talk about. So the current design of the path, I understand that you guys have some thoughts on that, like where we're going, because we're not done. Obviously they said, yes, we're going to go ahead and fund it, but we need to kind of work through it. And there was actually just a big community meeting last week that they put on, where there was a animation that was so cool, and that's going to be uploaded on their website. So I'll put all this information on our blog website so that you can find that. Next week, I think it's going to be available. So talk a little bit about the existing path, or excuse me, the proposed path design, and kind of what are the positives, what are the negatives, what do you want to see improved, and then we can go into milestones, and we'll probably have to wrap up.
Okay, great.
I mean, it's like 99%, great. I mean, we're working together very well with the state and the designers, the engineering firms. Like I said before, they've taken a lot of our ideas, so we're very happy with the vast majority. We have a few little things that we've mentioned to them.
So some of the things are the fences, right? That was the comment that was made at the meeting, was that there are very strict guidelines with the MassDOT because these paths are going to be going up and over their lines, and we can't really have people throwing things. So a lot of the fences to keep people away from jumping out or throwing things really seem a little bit industrial. However, there was a mention of potentially looking into keeping those standards, but somehow making it a little more creative to express the Somerville side. I know that was a big concern, and whether we could do that. Maybe a couple other of the main points.
Well, I think that there are a couple of sections where you're riding, just sort of east of the Cross Street Bridge. There's a little section where you're kind of tunneled between two walls, and we're really interested in getting some clear walls, at least on one side, so that people can be seen on the path.
For safety.
For safety, and also just lighting, and clear walls can be cleaned of graffiti. I know that graffiti is always an issue where there are walls, but it's safety first from our perspective. And we're also interested in some kind of rest areas, little bulb outs along the viaduct, so that people could stop and change a tire or change a baby or just rest or look at the scenery.
Well, there are definitely things that in terms of spatial limitations, where sometimes it's only 8 feet wide in certain areas, but it really has more of that's more connected to the spatial, they've maxed out as wide as it can go. But there's still a public comment period, correct? So the meeting that happened last week, this isn't going to be the last meeting, I understand. People, if they want to take a look at the current design and make their comments on the animation that they see, you can definitely go ahead and do that. And then as far as next steps, what might someone at home, if they want to get involved, how could they do that? Obviously, they could come to a meeting, or what do you think?
Yeah, well, we have a monthly meeting.
We could go to our info page here.
So yeah,
there you go.
They can come to our monthly meetings.
Okay.
They can look at the Facebook and website to see what's going on. There's supposed to be a meeting in earlier mid-June. The next meeting that the state will be putting on, looking at the design.
In mid-June?
Yeah.
Okay, so from now until, when is there an open comment period where people can look at what's proposed?
Right.
Currently?
I think the comment period is always
open.
open from what I can tell. I mean,
The last meeting was a city meeting. There wasn't a specific comment period. The next meeting is a state meeting. It will have a specific comment period.
Oh, it will. Okay,
Like-
so in June that will be also a meeting that people can go to. Couple of the things, like as far as the milestones, I know that there were some significant milestones that I think might be interesting for people just to see, where we kind of came from where we're going and when this actually will all start. So if we can maybe switch back one more time here. So maybe you can go through that, because that's exciting.
All right, so as you mentioned at the beginning, Lynn and Joel started the Friends of Community Path in 2001. 4 years later, when the green line was real and really coming, and that meant that the path could only be with the green line, we asked, please include the path. And at that point, they basically said no. And then we've had we've had different progress steps in the meantime. That they would design part of it, then they would design all of it, then it would connect to the stations. Last year that they would design the entire 100%, and then the big news a couple weeks ago that they would fund the whole thing.
And so maybe we want to go to, I know there was a lot of people that were involved in this effort. This is definitely one. I think it's the last one.
There it is.
So is there anyone in particular that you just want to thank to make sure that we're almost out of time? So
Well, we definitely thank the governor. The Green Line design team has been awesome. They've been very transparent, easy to talk to. They've valued our ideas.
All the legislators, the mayor, head of the MBTA, Secretary Davey.
Okay. Well, thank you to all that. So in the upcoming years, first, I'd like to thank our guests, Lynn Weissman and Alan Moore, for stopping by this evening to talk to us about all these exciting developments. In the upcoming years, if the design of this 2-mile community path is finalized and built, the overwhelming positive impact this path will have on Somerville and its community is unmeasured. However, we mustn't forget the Herculean effort that a select few have given over the past decade. Had it not been for the determination of these two individuals, Joel Bennett, Somerville Transportation Equity Partnership, and a handful of others, Somerville would not be celebrating this milestone victory today. I would personally like to thank Lynn and Alan for being all that they do to make this community a better place to be, and for countless others who were involved with this recent milestone victory. So please check out our new and improved Greater Somerville blog at www.greatersomerville.wordpress.com for more information on tonight's episode and Friends of the Community Path, and related links, as well as other Greater Somerville episodes. That does it for us tonight. Thank you to the viewers at home for watching, and as always, stay safe and stay informed. Good night, everyone.